Hi everyone, my name is Sindhu Srinivas. I am the Director of Marketing for VMware in India, and it is truly my pleasure and an honor to actually anchor this discussion, this fireside chat, like we call it, with Kanika. I was telling Kanika as we were beginning the session, I spent some time in the morning going through, just Kanika's journey, and I was so glad I did it because it gave me, I'm truly motivated to hear her story, and I'm really excited for bringing this to you. And the topic that I thought was most relevant, because all of us are in professionals and what we can learn from Kanika, is around the mindset change, that entrepreneurs or mindset that entrepreneurs have, that each of us can actually learn from Kanika's experiences itself, of being a woman in an industry that's male dominated, being the youngest woman on Forbes under 30, and actually controlling 20% of the share of the market that she's in, private jets, which is so unique, and not many of us even understand what it means, right? So I'm going to actually let her unfold this as we go through this half an hour chat with her. So like most of us start our stories with, our childhood and the influence it has in our lives. I want to ask Kanika, because, what she's done here is really lived her life king size, like they say, so dream big. And I'm sure it started with her own childhood experiences. So they have played a key role in fueling what Kanika has done today. So I'm going to actually ask Kanika to share her childhood experiences and how it has actually molded her to where she is today to begin with. Over to you, Kanika. Love to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Sindhu, for having me here. I think, jumping right in, I was really, really young when I saw a helicopter land on the terrace of our house. There was a technical emergency. And, we didn't grow up in a Google, iPad, laptop age. So I didn't even know what a helicopter was, ironically. And we thought it was a giant flying cockroach that had come on the roof of our house to eat us up, quite literally. And the pilots were kind enough to show us around. We got to know more about the helicopter. And I was very fascinated by anything that flew at that time, be it a plane. I remember soon after that, I used to study in Indore when my parents lived in Bhopal. My father sent me alone to Indore on a plane when I was about 5 years old, with a cabin crew as a chaperone sort of a thing. And that was the best thing that I could have ever done in my life, being alone in a flight. So I was always very, very, fascinated by anything that flew, and I thought I'd become a pilot. But I also belong to a very traditional Orthodox Marwari business family, where girls don't work for other people, girls don't become pilots. I wanted to take, science in my 11th and 12th grade to become a pilot. And I was told, no, are you crazy? Girls don't do science. In hindsight, I'm glad I didn't, because I don't think I'm smart enough for it. But on a more serious note, I think, that's where the love for aviation actually began. I never knew that this is what I would work in, or that I would be able to set up this company. I actually went and studied visual communication design as my undergrad degree, with economics on the side, just to be a little safe, if I may say that. And I always thought I'd probably do some painting, some artwork, be in advertising and stuff like that. But I think somewhere, when you have that passion and you to do something, irrespective of what you study, what you do, it comes out. And I was quite lucky to, I think, have gotten the right chances and be where I am.
Amazing, amazing. So from like there are 2 points I want to kind of dive a little deeper, Kanika. One is, the ability to actually, you said you wanted to become a pilot, and and then you also wanted to actually go and do design, right? Like you wanted to go to 2 parts that, ideally part of it is ambition, the other one is to be able to kind of hone in on a science of sort, both of which actually did not work out for you. And you fantastically said, maybe for the better, because you wouldn't have been what you are, right? But it also meant that at that point in time you were able to deal with not being able to handle rejection of sorts, and then not give up and then go after something else, right? So like today when you think about it, and all of us actually face this in our career or in your lives just overall, right? There is some form of what we think we want to be, or something we want to do, or something we want to achieve at every stage of our career, all right, which sometimes doesn't happen, right? So there is a key ingredient of being resilient, or even just when you think about it in hindsight, you possibly went and did what was next best because, you just thought about it. But today, if you were actually thinking of, what does it take for us to be able to kind of not, not give up on something that did not work and then to kind of go after the next big thing? How would you think about like how you would phrase it or advise, or what would you say about it simply?
Sindhu, I think rejection is something that we deal with in our daily lives every second of the day, quite literally. It's for bigger things, it's for smaller things. I mean, when you were a child, if you wanted a chocolate and someone said no to you, that was rejection. It's about, I think building that perseverance and strength to actually have nothing move you. I don't say that I've built it, to be honest. Like even now, when a customer says, I don't want to do this with you, or if a vendor refuses to tie up with us, or some certain business that I'm targeting, it doesn't happen. It's rejection at the end of the day, and it's something that you're born with and you're going to live with. I was very young, when I think if I had to go back to school, for example, I was always the kid who was bullied. I was always the kid who was, not the popular kid, etc. And it was very, very hard. But I think, somewhere that resilience started building up from then, where I always told myself, I'm not going to take no as an answer. I'm not going to accept defeat, and I'm not going to accept rejection. Whatever happens, happens for the best. To be very personal, like this morning when I woke up, there's a certain contract that's going a little wrong in the company. And I was like, we've not done anything wrong. Why is this person doing this to us? Why are we being put through this grief because of his own personal issues? And it's very easy for me to get demotivated, mess up the whole day. It's a dominoes effect, right? If you wake up with something going wrong, everything throughout the day starts falling down, tuck, 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 tuck. And I had to actually sit down and tell myself that, listen, this is not the end of the world. Something better is going to come out of it. It's only going to make you stronger. It's going to make you smarter. It's not easy telling yourself this. I think we live in a world of external validation. We live in a world where, okay, how many likes do you get on Facebook or Instagram or, I don't know, Snapchat or whatever it's that this generation uses. But, I think it's so easy to get carried away in this drift, and it happens to me. I remember when I couldn't become a pilot, I remember feeling like, why can't I become a pilot? Why can't I do this? Why did I have to be born in this family? Why do I have to live with these rules? And I also remember telling myself that, it's not something that's going to be the end of the world. Something better is going to come out of it. And I think it was at that stage that I learned that, you have to be your biggest motivator, your biggest encourager, your biggest support, your biggest strength. There is nobody in the world who can tell you how good you are, what you can do. So every time something goes wrong, even now, I just tell myself that, look, it's not the end of the world, and there is something better in store for me. And, invariably, more times than not, there is something better in store. It's about perspective. It's the way, it's about looking at the glass half full, half empty. And I think that's the biggest difference between a strong individual and a normal individual. And, why I say that is that it's very, very important to deal with rejection in a positive manner. If you don't get chosen for a certain job interview, for example, if you don't get that job, it's very easy to sit at home and say, okay, I'm not going to apply for any more jobs. I'm useless. There's that. It's very hard to tell yourself that, look, I'm made for better. I'm going to aim higher. I'm going to apply to 20 more places and get a better job and prove those guys wrong. And that's exactly what I've been telling myself since I was a child. Everything, when the kids used to bully me in school, I remember telling myself, one day, all of these people are going to come asking me for a job. I never knew how it will happen. It was just something I would tell myself. Well, it's happening now, thank God. So I think it's, I remember telling myself so many times that all these people who are laughing at me when I set up the company are going to regret their words. And I see it happening. I spoke to you about the Dubai Air Show right now. I remember there was this one individual who refused to acknowledge my presence at every single air show, thinking I'm too small a fish for him to even spend his time. He's a CEO of a very big company. This guy for the last 3 days has been running around me in circles trying to get time with me to, sell me his product. And I used to run after him to just talk to me. And I never got demotivated by it. I just told myself in my head, I said, one day you're going to so regret everything you're doing. I'm going to come back bigger, stronger, smarter. And it's happening. Like, this is a real life example of the current now. So I think a strong individual does not take, there is nothing called a no in my book. A strong individual does not, there's no word called rejection in their diary. To them, it's either this or that. And that's what it's always been for me. If not this, there is going to be a that. If not that, there will be one more that. And that's the absolute difference between a normal person and a strong person. A strong person does not get demotivated. There's no space in their life for getting demotivated. I know, easier said than done, but you've got to make it happen.
Yeah, and it takes quite a bit to actually be that way every time. And from what I hear from you, you're like a one-woman army, literally.
Yeah,
Are
quite.
you? You
Yes.
are, right? And you are in an industry that's aviation, that's quite male dominated, right? Where I'm sure you face, gender disparity, unconscious bias. You just said this person did not acknowledge you for so many years, and the tables have changed. But also, I think it's also another industry where you actually have to deal with, not just the commercial aspect, but you're dealing with government and regulation and everything, right? So I'm sure everybody is used to having their cronies come on and deal with things, whereas in your case it probably seems like you are front ending a lot of these things. So what has been that experience? Because you know it's different when you're in a company, and I can say this just because my husband actually runs a company in the last 10 years, and I've seen him from being a plant manager to being like his own sweeper, to procurement, to sales and everything, right? So it's all of it is you, right? So what does it take to be that? Because I think all of us we are in jobs, and because we're in jobs, we are used to almost wearing a designation, right? So there are some privileges which come with that, but I think it's also good to kind of learn that you've got to be able to take everything and do all of it. And I know in your context it's like the extreme format of aviation as an industry, dealing with not just you're an employer, you need to be an employer, you need to be, I heard you say somewhere that when you started working you had people twice as much older than you that were working for you. So in every single aspect you seem like you're dealing with all kinds of biases. So I'm curious to kind of hear from you how you go about that.
Seriously, I think a lot of biases are in our head also. Again, to give you another example, the day before I was at a dinner where, I was the only girl on the table. It was a sit down dinner with about 14 people. And I was the only girl on the table. I didn't realize this. I didn't count it. Someone else on the table came and said to me, "Oh, you're the only girl always, everywhere, Kanika. Do you feel uncomfortable?" I said, "What's there to feel uncomfortable about? I've got 11 people at my beck and call who are going to do everything I want." I said, "I'm going to own this table." So I think it's that there is always going to be a lot of unconscious bias. How much ever we say in this world that there is gender parity, there is no bias, it is going to be there. And I think a large part of it is also to do with the fact that we make women working such a big deal. We say we need special things for women and all of that. So I think it's a double-edged sword, which is a much longer conversation, obviously. But having said that, I think I a long time ago I stopped thinking of myself as a woman or a man. I've always thought that I'm an entrepreneur with a mission to achieve something, with a goal, and I've got to work towards that goal. I remember I've spoken about it very openly. My first sales pitch to a company, I was very young. I was the last person to walk into a room, and the person we'd gone to pitch to, the owner of that big, multi-billion-dollar company, pointed his finger at me like this and said, "Miss, ask everyone if they want tea or coffee." I literally wanted to cry there. I was like, what do I do? I mean, this guy thinks I'm an assistant in his own office. It took all my courage and all my might to, stop my tears, walk in there and say, "Sir, I'm the person who's here to present to you what we do," and tell him about what we do. And, the look on his face, his actions, all of them said that, "What are you doing in my office? Why aren't you running a bakery or something?" But we won him over slowly. Won him over. He's our biggest champion. He's our biggest customer. He loves us. He, in fact, has hired a lot more women looking at me. He seeks my advice all the time. And, I think I've made that small change in my own way without being demotivated by it. Again, it's very easy to say that don't get demotivated by it. There are days even now when I wake up and I'm like, I don't even want to wake up and face the world with everything that's going on around me. And, again, like you said, we deal a lot with the regulator, with the government offices, etc. And it's very easy. I mean, now I have a rock solid team. My team is my biggest strength. They go out there and they put on a battle like you can't imagine for most people. But, having said that, I think in the early days, especially, it was very hard for people to take me seriously because I had this lethal combination of being young, being a woman, and being in an industry where only men exist. And I think all of it together was an exploding time bomb, which I diffused with the help of my team, of course. And it was, relatively not only hard, but I think it was very annoying to not be taken seriously. It was very annoying for, to have to listen to no's. But again, every single no, I think, only motivated me and encouraged me. And I always tell, today's generation, I always tell today's workforce that each one of us is a micro entrepreneur in our own organization. It's the survival of the fittest. There is no more that era where, okay, if you joined a company, you spent 30 years, 40 years with them, you were safe, your job was like an insurance, your designation was an insurance. It's no more that world. So with each of us being micro entrepreneurs, you've got to do what is best for yourself as well as what is best for your organization. You've got to earn your salary, you've got to earn your pay. And there you can't use excuses like, oh, I see a lot of people in my own setup or in other people's setup, which say, I'm a girl, that's why I'm not getting this, or I'm young, that's why they're not taking me seriously. Or, but I've been through this whole cycle myself. I had people who were thrice my age who were reporting to me, who wouldn't take me seriously. I didn't show them the door, but I fixed them. And, you've got to fix it. You've got to, and I think it all again starts with the confidence you have in yourself. If you think you're a young girl who can't do anything, yes, the whole world's going to exploit you. If you think you're a young boy who's not qualified to be in that job, the world's going to exploit you. But if you think you're qualified, you earned what you got, and you're performing, there is nothing better than the measure of performance. Our first customer, I'll never forget, everyone in that organization wanted me out. They didn't want us having the contract. The CFO told me that, you're not going to survive here more than 3 months. I would come home and cry every single night saying, what the hell have I gotten myself into? Will I survive? And then my business partner told me, he said, Kanika, you know what? All of this is complete garbage. Forget all of it. What's going to matter are the numbers at the end of these 3 months. You've been given a chance to perform in 3 months. And all that's going to matter is performance. Everyone can say you're a girl, you're useless, you're stupid, you don't know what you're doing, you're young, you're crazy, all of that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to make the money, no one can question that. And that's precisely what we did. We put a company that had an 8 million EBITDA loss into a 1 million EBITDA profit within 3 months, and that's what mattered, and everyone loved us since then. So I think it's all about performance. We've got to stop questioning ourselves for how old we are or what gender we are or from where we come from. And I see it happen a lot around us. We're victims of our own thoughts, we're victims of our own beliefs. We've got to become the victims of our own success, and that's the only way out.
Very well said. Victims of our own success. I really like that. Really, really nice. What does it take, these unconventional aspirations to take to the skies and dream big, right? Like, what does it take to be that? Is that because, all of us want, I think if you believe in yourself, like you're saying, and, you want to dream, you dream big and you believe that you do it, you will be able to do it and you perform, you should. But what for you has been the key ingredient? Like, what do you think when you think about yourself? What actually got you to where you are? Because a lot of us also work hard, right? All of us is it a combination of things that always come together? And, there is no taking away from the hard work and all of it. But what is it that actually, in your assessment is about, dreaming big and making it?
I don't think I've made it to even 5% of where I would like to make it, to be honest. So I think that journey is a never-ending journey, and the goalpost keeps shifting. There's never your goalpost never stays where it is. It's not like a football field which you can measure the length and breadth. I mean, you get this, and then you want that, and you get that, and you want to do this, and I wanted 2 planes, and I wanted 8 planes, now I want 100 planes. I mean, and then I want to do spaceships and rockets and all of that, right? So I don't think I've reached where I would ever want. The day I say I've reached where I've reached, that means I'm going to retire. And I don't see that day coming very soon. But, having said that, I think hard work is very critical. And, it's a very, without hard work, I don't think you can do anything in life. Something as simple as running a home or running a business or whatever it is, takes a lot of work. But I think a large part to succeeding at anything you're doing, achieving any dream, it could be something as small as, winning the neighborhood football match. But I think to do any of that, it takes a lot of perseverance and a lot of strength and a lot of courage. I think you need to really, really believe in yourself and not give up. I think that's been my biggest lesson. Every day you're going to hear a no. Every day someone's going to laugh at you. Every day someone's going to make fun of you. Every day a customer's going to say a no. Every day things will go wrong. And it's so easy to give it all up. There've been so many times I'm just like, why am I doing this? I just want to stop. And I have to tell myself, you're doing this because you asked for it. There's no one else who's responsible for this. So if you have the goal, you have to take ownership for the goal. The universe, there's a saying, the universe conspires to make everything happen for you. And I really believe in it. But, for you to actually make the universe conspire to have everything happen, you have to believe in what you really want. If you're going to say, okay, I want to do this, and then expect everything to just, fall in place. No, it's a very, very hard journey, and that journey never ends. I think every day of the journey, you get a little more braver, you get a little more stronger, and you have to keep believing that you can do something. And if you fail at it also, if things go wrong, it's, you just can't stop believing in it. Again, there's a borderline, difference between getting completely obsessed with something, even when you shouldn't be, and trying to do something. Again, it's up to us to identify that that line of fine line. But having said that, I always say, like, for example, when I fell sick when I was 21, everyone said you're not going to be able to do this. Everyone laughed at me. Everyone said, I think that was my biggest test of the biggest test of myself. When people came around and told me that no one will give you a job, no one will marry you, this won't happen, that won't happen, blah, blah, blah. The whole universe was trying to tell me that my life is going to be negligent. I'm going to live like a stupid potato for the rest of my life. And it was only me who had to keep telling myself, no, I'm not going to live like a potato. Even if I have to, I'll be the coolest potato in town. And I think, that's the only attitude with which you can achieve your dreams. You have to keep telling, be so proud of your dreams and be so focused on achieving them that nothing in the world can stop you. Hard work is only 10% of it. I do a lot of faff. I chill when I want to. I work when I want to. For me, there is no work-life balance, and that's something you've got to be willing to live with if you want to be an entrepreneur in a space like this. I don't remember the last time where I said, okay, today's a Sunday, I'm going to do nothing. More invariably than not, every Sunday when I say I'm going to do nothing, my phone will start ringing at 6 a.m. in the morning, and everything that has to go wrong will go wrong. So, I think it's about giving up certain beliefs, in life. I have a lot of kids that I mentor who want to be entrepreneurs, and they come and tell me, oh, we want to strike a perfect work-life balance. We want to be able to do this also, and we want to be able to do this also. And my simple response is, clearly you don't believe in your goal itself. If you want to have a backup plan B, C, D, E, F, that means you don't believe you can achieve plan A. So I think the first rule in this rule book is there is no plan B, C, D. If you believe you can achieve plan A, you've got to focus only on plan A and make that happen.
Yeah. So you stole away my last question, Kanika. You actually, if I had to tell you, I was going to ask you that, what would you say are the 3 things if somebody was looking to start something on their own, from being like a professional. Many of us in work today think about, after having spent time working or doing whatever we want to be able to start something, either it's it's for profit or not, but anything, whatever. I think I am also a firm believer of, it cannot be like for profit is something that will keep you going. So it becomes, it's valued. But even for somebody of, for all of us who are in the profession today, but are thinking of starting something, what would be your parting? And you said, don't have a plan B, C, it's plan A and plan A only. But even then, I'm going to ask you the question, and I'm sure you see a lot of women like me or professionals, right? And, I'm curious to kind of see it from your lens. What are your observations? And what do you think if they were to kind of think about starting something on their own, or, just applying a lot of entrepreneur journey to their careers at whatever points in time, what would be the 2 things that you would tell them?
So before I go into that, I think one thing I would like to say is that it's never too late to do something on your own. And, I get this, like, my own mother all the time keeps telling me, oh, I'm so old, what can I do now? There is nothing called I'm so old, what can you do now? And there is never a right time to do something. And there's never a wrong time to do something. So I think that's one thing every woman needs to remember. Like, I had a pilot who flew with us. She went and became a pilot at the age of 50. Well, after both her kids went to college, she went to flying school. She learned how to become a pilot. She flew with us. She worked really hard. Imagine her plight. She was flying with kids who were 17, 18 years old, learning to become a pilot. And I have so much respect for her. And, I have so much love for her, but for the simple reason that she believed in herself. She said, okay, I want to have a family. She had a family. I want to have 2 kids and I want to take the best care of them in the world. She did that. Both the kids are in college, very successful, doing well. And I said, okay, I want to go to flying school and, become a pilot. So I think it's never ever too late to go and achieve your dreams, to go and work for what you want. And I think the 2 things that you've got to remember is that I think the first thing I keep reinstating it again and again is, but you have to be your biggest believer and motivator. No one else can help you believe in yourself. It's not your husband, boyfriend, father, mother, no one. You have to be your biggest motivator. And the second thing, and again, I say this a lot, is that, turn every no into a yes throughout your journey and use every no as a stepping stone to success. And why I say that is because, if I had to look back at the 33 years of my life, every no has only been an encourager and a motivator for me. Every time someone said no to me for something, I said, okay, I'm going to go and turn this around. I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to do this. And it's just given me so much motivation. I remember someone recently telling me, this man who was really, really irritated that, we're taking away all his business. I'm going to shut your business down. And it was the biggest motivator for me. I was actually getting a little complacent, thinking, we're doing well. I'll take a couple of months off. I'll do this. I'll do that. Now I'm like, screw you. I'm going to go out there, all guns blazing, become bigger, smarter. So you're going to regret your words. So I think it's very important. Take these no's very seriously in a positive manner, and nothing in the world can stop you from achieving what you want to achieve.
Awesome. It has been so nice chatting with you. Last question, parting for me. What does success mean for you? Or what is the life, what is life experience for you? I know you're still 33 and you have a long, long runway to go, and I wish you all the very best. I'm sure you'll do many, many more fantastic things, and super proud of you being here so young, doing so much. But have you thought of this at all?
So I think, success, I think of it a lot, because a lot of people, tell me that, oh, you're so successful, oh, you're doing so well, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, what is successful? What is this definition of success? Why do we talk about it so much? And I mean, to me, success is being able to wake up and go to the gym in the morning on a day when I don't want to. I value the smaller things in life, but I think the definition of success, it's such an overrated word, and it's such a underplayed word. To me, a mother bringing up a child the way she wants to is success. To be able to take care of my employees is success. To be able to take care of my parents is success. But if I had to I always tell my team this, and I'll relate a story to it. We had a recent tax audit, and the auditor actually came and told us, you're the only company in the entire region, in this industry, who has honestly come here, submitted your returns, done everything on time, etc. And everyone else will keep getting notice after notice. We have to keep poking them. Why are you doing this? And then somebody was like, maybe you're a girl or something. I said, sir, please, it's none of this. I'll tell you why I do this, because what I value the most is being able to go to sleep peacefully in the night. I want nothing to keep me awake, nothing to keep me worried. And I think that's my biggest measure of success. The only way you can go to sleep at night is if you've not wronged anyone, if you're not doing anything, which you don't believe in, if you're achieving what you want for the day. And there are nights where I can't sleep. For example, yesterday I had 1,27,000 unread emails. I just could not sleep. I was so agitated with myself that how did I let this happen? And so I didn't have a successful day. So I think, I think a lot of people would relate to this. I think success is all about a state of mind, right? So if you're happy, if you're content, if you're peaceful, I would say that person is the most successful.
Sure. So well said. Very, very well said, Kanika. Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking to you. I'm sure all of us listening in would have definitely also. And, looking for you and cheering for you. And I hope to get some opportunity to meet you sometime. Would love to.
Thank you so much. It will be a pleasure.
Take care. Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.